Welcome everybody as you're coming on. See everybody starting to pop in now. Great to see you all. Yeah, it's been, I find like I'm in a bit of a time vortex too these days. I don't know about you, but it is crazy to me that we are middle of September.
Yeah.
Coming up towards the end of September.
Yeah, and then they're starting to lock down again.
I know. I know. Well, I was doing a team coaching session this morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. So you're getting to listen to me and Martin Kabitz here. I was on a team session this morning, and like literally 20 minutes into the session, one of the women had a call that her child was being sent home from school. So
oh, no.
I'm like, and so it begins.
That's going to increase. Yeah. They locked down the UK today, I see.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. So that means, I was hoping to go across there in November, but no way now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know about traveling across Canada because I've got my mom is in Victoria and not sure about that. So I'm curious if anybody in the call's been traveling, throw it in the chat or let us know if you've got trips planned. Curious to see, because some people are getting right back into it and others are not. I've got friends that have no plans to travel until 2022.
Oh gosh, wow.
Enough next year.
Wow, I'll be a lot older. I'll be decrepit by then. I'll have to take my walker, my walking stick, yeah.
I know. It's so strange though, because I did so much travel before. It's weird to be grounded.
I was actually thinking about going down to Pearson and just sitting in there for about 4 or 5 hours, just to reminisce and hear the next flight to Vancouver, the next flight to London. Yeah. I'll always like to be on it. Yeah.
If only.
I lived in that place. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I do miss all of the opportunities we had to kind of wing around the world without too many concerns other than, do I take my shoes off going through security or not?
Right. No. Yeah. I have it down to an art now. Oh yeah. I'm prepared. Yeah. You can tell the people who don't travel that often by they and ah and they take, yeah. No, I'm ready. I'm through there.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I bet you've got it down.
My belt is off. Everything's off. Yeah.
All right. Well, we are at noon, and so I believe in starting on time. Welcome, everybody. I know we're going to have more people streaming in as we kind of get going here, but I want to welcome you all to this edition of Ask the Expert at the Roundtable. I'm joined by my friend, Martin Buckland. We've known each other for several years now. I probably won't say how long, and I was trying to remember where we met. I feel like it might have been through the Toronto Board of Trade or something like that. Do you have a better memory than me?
I think it was the Toronto Board of Trade, and then we met at the Schulich Connects a couple of times.
Oh yes, we used to do the Schulich Connects
every year.
Their MBA program.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I'm excited for all of you to be here with us today. And so here's how it's going to work. We've got you all muted, I think, and we'll kind of keep it on mute just to keep the noise down. I've got some questions to kick us off with Martin. And you can put your questions in the Q&A as we're going along. So as we're going through stuff, it's going to be, I really want to make sure you guys know the principles of the roundtable are, we are here for you to get the info that you need. I'm not looking for a job currently myself or needing to update my resume, but I do know who I will go to when I get to that point. So it really is for all of you. So if we're hitting on something and you're interested, put it in the Q&A right away, and I'll be monitoring that. Shelby's going to monitor it for me too. And but I think without further ado, we're going to get going. Let's jump into the meat of it, shall we? So Martin, you know, I think one of the things that you and I were talking about a little bit in terms of, you know, where we're at with COVID and the job market right now and what's going on with everybody, there's so much uncertainty. And as we were chatting, you were kind of, you know, sharing with me a little bit about what you've observed having lived through a few recessions in your day. So I thought maybe you could sort of set the stage for us. I mean, everybody's seen your bio, but maybe give us the 2-minute overview of who you are, what you do, and the kind of work that you've been doing lately, and then we'll kind of dive in. But give us sort of the
Sure.
Martin.
Yeah, well, I call myself an executive career management practitioner. So I hold multiple certifications in resume writing and many in coaching generally across the board. And I specialize at the senior executive level and those who aspire to be business leaders. I'm also a global expert in executive master of business administration. So that's what takes me across the world, speaking to business schools, EMBA cohorts. And then I'm also a global expert in mining. Why? Because the backbone of our economy here in Canada is mining. And it's a fascinating business. But 81% of the world's head offices of mining are here in Canada. Yeah.
And I know you are a major, we were talking about travel as everybody was streaming in, but you literally are somebody, every time I, see you in my Facebook feed, you are off to somewhere pretty glamorous. So you do really cover the globe around this topic.
Yeah, I love presenting. I like sharing my deep knowledge. I'm really passionate about sharing because I want to get people to go up the ladder or get back to work fast.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so talk to me a bit about what you've lived through a few recessions, right? Yep. And upsets and that we've had in the job market. But talk to me a little bit about what you're seeing in terms of job security and opportunity for people at this point in time. What are you thinking across your plate?
Well, that's a great question. So let me take it a little bit off to the side. I don't believe there's any job security. Everybody, you follow me on social media. Every full-time permanent job is really a temporary job. So you can be disposed of at any time. Doesn't matter whether it's a good economy or a bad economy. So you are a temporary. So you should really manage your career. Now, coming to this one, who would, even in January, know that we would be in this situation right now? This is the most unusual recession for me. I mean, I'm not an expert in recessions, but this is my third. The layoffs have been across the board. They haven't been in any particular sector. And I believe we're at a juncture now, and I network with, the economists of corporate Canada and corporate world. And they are telling me right now we're here, but we're about to take another dip, and quite a severe dip in elimination, termination, canning, or dismissal, or whatever you want to call it. Many more people will be in career transition before Christmas, sadly. But that's why I'm here, because I can bring a positive to a negative.
So I want to cycle back on that comment that you just made about, I don't think there's any job security at any time, right?
Right.
And I remember years ago hearing this futurist talk about the only secure job was to actually become an entrepreneur. Yep. And since becoming an entrepreneur myself, whenever I meet people who are in job transition, and they always say to me, oh, but I could never do what you're doing. I could never, build my own business. I could never do that. And I always say to them, you are doing it. Like everything you have to go through to find a job is absolutely the same thing that I go through as an entrepreneur every single day. It's like you're on a permanent job hunt, I think, when you're an entrepreneur, because you're constantly, out there trying to grow your business, sell yourself, all of that kind of good stuff. Yep. So I think that is a mindset that individuals have to really wrap their heads around, is that you are your own product, right? Yeah. And you need to be looking, we talked about look out for number one. When we were sort of talking about this. From your observation, what are kind of maybe the top 2 or 3 biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to looking after and managing their career? Like, what have you seen the repeating?
Well, period. They don't manage their career, and then suddenly they're let go, and they haven't got a LinkedIn profile, or it's very, very basic. They haven't got a resume, and then they're in, because they're already a very emotional situation to go through. It's number 3, I think, on the stress scale to be terminated.
Mm.
And so they're panicking. So they need to manage their careers when they're gainfully employed. So they need to keep their resume up to date, or their CV, depending on where you are in the world. They need to have an active and fully complete LinkedIn profile. Don't just have a little bit on your LinkedIn profile, and be active. It's no use being passive. So, you know, you can share things, create content, and then you need to network. It's pretty simple. We're in a very network society. I network furiously. I love doing it in person, but sadly we can't do it right now. But there's all these tools that we're using today to network. So yeah, you need to have an up-to-date resume. You need to have definitely a LinkedIn profile, and even Facebook now is becoming a huge tool for executive recruiters and other influencers to search for talent. And then network, because you're right, they are a product, and you're sending that product to the market. So the package, as I say, I like to sort of put it in a realistic terms, is the package is the resume, the LinkedIn profile, and you're the product inside.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about people as products, because I know, like, in one of the core components of our leadership program is we have people really think about their brand. Think about, like, what is your unique selling proposition, to use a marketing term? What's your zone of genius? How do you package that up into a brand? And I have to say, there are people that come through our program and they really resist this idea, you know, and I'm always, you know, kind of interested about that sort of discomfort with branding yourself, being a brand. I'd love to kind of hear from you. What's the benefits of people really thinking about branding? What's your own thought about building a brand and leveraging a tool like LinkedIn, which is just a great way to get your brand out there? Yeah,
sure. Well, I'm really passionate about people's personal brands. So we all know the big corporate brands, IBM, Kellogg. We know the academic brands, you know, Kellogg again, and Schulich and Rotman and other universities and whatever. But you need to have your own brand. So what is your unique? Everybody, the audience today and the audience coming on in the replays, everybody is unique. You need to discover what is your unique promise of value. What is your differentiator? Why should I, if I was in a hiring position, whether I be an HR professional, whether I be an executive recruiter or somebody else who's in a hiring mode, why should I choose you over Mary, Mark, or Paul? Because right now, there's plenty of talent available. So you have to really niche it down. What is your niche? Why should I call you over Mary, Mark, or Paul? So you need to have your personal brand on your resume, on your cover letter, and any other collateral, your bio or whatever. And then you also need to have it on your LinkedIn profile. But you need to live up to that brand. You know, don't just embellish. And we're not in an embellishing age. You need to be honest and open and realistic.
Yeah. I think that's maybe where people feel like they have to build this brand that's out there somewhere, that's this glossy thing, as opposed to what a brand should be, is that reflection of who you are.
Yeah.
And I love this idea of, like, really differentiating. Often I see people create these brand statements that are super generic. They're like, I'm an experienced leader who's good at motivating teams and building strategic plans.
Yeah, no, you know, that's a good one. So everybody, most of the audience here are leaders, but what is your unique promise of value within that leadership range? So you know, they're very generic. They're like, oh my gosh, well, I can tell you thousands of people I know exactly like what you're just telling me. I need to know, why should I? If I was a hiring position, hire you over everybody else. There's plenty of talent available.
It's like what's your special sauce? What's your secret sauce? So I've got a great question, actually, that's sort of, I think, a build on this one from Barbara. Thanks, Barbara, for your question. Barbara's asking, she's saying, I've experienced significant ageism in trying to secure employment. What advice do you have for someone who is in the latter part of their career, but tremendously experienced and able to make a significant contribution? How do you position your brand when maybe, you know, you feel like there's bias against your brand?
Yeah. Now, that's a great question. We could be here till breakfast tomorrow morning talking about that.
But we won't be.
It's a perception. It's your attitude to who you are. Are you going to count yourself out of opportunities just simply because you think you're over the hill? Or do you think you can market your skill sets? I've got clients right now in the recession who are in their 60s in multiple offer situations at the senior executive level where the air is thin. So I see it, you know, I see it as an attitude. You need to think of yourself as, coming back to that product, the specialty, the niche, the value, the experience you can bring. Because, Bob, there is a job out there for you right now, but you need to extinguish all that thought, well, I'm not wanted. You are wanted.
I love that, because I think a lot of that time we create our own limiting beliefs around what's capable and what we're capable of. I had a big limiting belief about myself as an entrepreneur when I started, because I took one of those, like, you know, online assessments through one of the banks, like, are you cut out to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
And the questions were things like, were your parents entrepreneurs? I'm like, no, they weren't. Okay, so maybe I'm not supposed to, like, it's crazy what you can start to put in your head if you're not careful, and the story you make up for yourself. And then, you know, our beliefs drive our actions, which will deliver our results. So we really have to be careful what beliefs we choose to hold on to about our potential and capability.
The moment you enter a job search, you're a salesperson. You're nothing to do with finance. You're nothing to do with engineering. You're nothing to do with supply chain or anything else. You are selling yourself. So you also need to get that attitude about, oh no, I'm not over the hill. I can bring tons of value, and I'm going to sell myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back to LinkedIn for a second, because I remember in one of our roundtable sessions, it was quite funny. One of the guys, we were talking about this whole branding and how to leverage brand statements on different platforms. And we were talking about LinkedIn. And he said, you know, I had a call from a recruiter the other day, and they were calling me about a job. And they said to me, you know, I wasn't really sure if it would be of interest to you, because it wasn't really clear on your profile whether or not, you know, you had the right level of experience. Well, he had done the classic thing of when LinkedIn first came out, he threw his information up there and had never updated it. Right. And so, you know, it was a big wake-up call for him. And that was probably going back about 6 years ago that, you know, we were having that conversation. Right. My observation is that LinkedIn now is such a go-to for recruiters. Really, you know, since they've created like Sales Navigator and all these back-end recruiting tools, it is, you know, basically if you're on LinkedIn, you are licensing people to find you for opportunities. Yeah. So if you were to give people on this call some advice on the parts of their LinkedIn profile that if they were only going to pay attention to one or two things to start with, what would you tell them to really put some energy into really making those parts tight or amplify them? Or
that's a great question. So there's two things you must do instantly to raise your Google ranking as well, and then that will attract more visitors. So you must customize your LinkedIn URL. So if you've got numbers and letters after your name, or just letters or just numbers, you haven't customized your LinkedIn URL. So that's the default they gave you whenever you signed up 2 years ago or 10 years ago or 14 years ago, whatever. And then you must have a professional picture. By a professional, I'm not interested in you hugging your kids, your spouse, or your fishing trophy from a fishing trip up north or whatever. I'm interested in a professional picture. So those two, the LinkedIn profile URL gives a Google ranking, raises your Google ranking by 400%, and having a picture 1400%, just by simply doing that. Then you need to have recommendations. So the rule of thumb with executive recruiters and other influencers, per job, per appointment, 5 recommendations per job. So what would that look like? You need to have preferably one from your boss. I know it's tough. Somebody from lateral to you, so somebody level to you, an employee, and then a vendor or supplier, and then finally a customer. The more you pack it out, the better it is. But then LinkedIn is pageless. You can scroll down for ages. It gives you, it's all character sensitive. And I've got a chart I can share with anybody on how number of characters per section. But you need to fill it out. The more you fill it out, the more Google will recognize you and the more visits you're going to get. but then also you need to be very personalized. So I don't send that. I just don't want to send an invite out with any text. I tell them who I am and why I want to connect, because it's be courteous, and you need to tell them why you want to connect. So I'm running out for LinkedIn. I'm up more close to 30,000 now. So of which I actually spoken to 27,000 of those.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I know I'm pretty fierce in my networking, but you know, I'm very defined in who I want to accept. So I get about 80 people a day wanting to connect with me. I only connect with maybe 5. But yeah, so but you need to be active on LinkedIn. One thing an executive recruiter, one thing anybody else is looking for is active. So have you been, have you shared? Have you built content? Have you published? It's quite simple. It's all for free. I would suggest if you're in or very serious about career management, you upgrade to the premium. And then definitely if you're in career transition, you have to have premium. Yeah. So
what does premium do for maybe people who aren't familiar with what premium is?
It gives you the extra bells and whistles. So it gives you extra in-mails. It gives you a chance to see who has viewed your profile. So when somebody views my profile, I look at their profile and I say, thanks for visiting my profile. How may I help you? And that is time consuming, I know. But when you're in career transition, unfortunately, you've got lots of time on your hand. And you need to be, I'm going to say, well, finding a job in career transition is a full-time gig. Don't do 2 hours, don't do 4 hours, do 8 hours or even 12 hours. The more, it's like anything. The more you put into it, the more will come your way. It's like the rewards. So yeah, be on LinkedIn, furious on LinkedIn. And, if you're a sales and marketing guy, you almost have to be on Twitter. And then Facebook is becoming very, very big. So, but concentrate on LinkedIn and build your brand on LinkedIn, but fill it out from top to bottom. Be active in groups. People don't even know groups are there. And I bet if you type in the search engine, just the word Toronto in the group search engine, there probably are, I don't know, 1,000 groups. And there may be a group just niche to you in supply chain or in finance. So there is a Toronto Finance Leaders. So you need to introduce yourself to that group because everybody in that group is in finance. And you never know. There could be a CFO or a vice president of finance who's actually looking for somebody with your talent right this minute.
Yeah, I mean, it's so fascinating because, we have so many members and there are, I would say I could probably put on one hand outside of all my, my LinkedIn contacts that are, consultants and coaches and advisors and all those guys that are pushing content out at me 24/7. But within the leadership ranks, I feel like I could maybe put on one or two hands the people that I know, like from within our community, our Roundtable community. Yes, all of you on the call, I'm looking at you, that are actively putting out content on LinkedIn. And I think it is, when you see the people that are doing it well, like I think of one HR person who I know, who her brand is about building culture. She's a culture builder. And that's what she writes about. That's what she talks about. That's what she puts out there. There's a real, she's not asking for work. She's not, she gets headhunted all the time. And it's because she's putting her thinking out there, which is a way of demonstrating her expertise and her skills.
Exactly.
Right. And I think people think of LinkedIn, it's all about like, hey, do you have a job for me? Hey, do you have a job for me? That's not what building your brand is on this platform.
If you have a brand, people will come to you rather than you go to them. So yeah, that's very, very important. I mean, I've had several clients who, during the end cut when they got their resume and they got their little bit of coaching. We wrap it up, and then 5 years later, I don't see them for 5 years on LinkedIn. And then suddenly they appear on LinkedIn. So I say, oh, hi, Joe. I've just seen you on LinkedIn. I pick up the phone. I know you've just been terminated. Well, how do you know? And then I say, well, I haven't seen you on LinkedIn. I told you, didn't I, during the wrap-up coaching conversation? Oh, yes.
Guilty as charged. Well, that's
Yeah.
actually a good segue to the next question that came in from one of the folks on the call. The question is, how do you manage potential employer perception that you are shopping around for roles by being overly active on LinkedIn? Can it have any negative repercussions?
Yeah, well, there is a a fine line between being active and overly active. I would suggest that don't do any more than 3 posts a day. So I would suggest you probably try and do a video as well, because video is getting really, it's the way of the world. But you can comment on other people's, but share as well. I would say no. Yeah, that's a great question. Don't blast every 10 seconds or 10 minutes or whatever. But you need to get your brand out there. There's the 3 posts a day would be, but you can still comment on others. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough question to answer. It depends on the industry as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess if you're going from 0 to 100, maybe you want to stagger it up. You want to sort of, start with a few posts a week and then amplify it so people get used to seeing you on there and not just come out full guns blazing.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I would suggest you videos, as you and I know, you create video content, I create video content, and I'm building my YouTube channel. You need to be on video. Yeah, and have video. Google, and it's if you've got video on your LinkedIn, Google gives you an extra brownie points. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Angela came in with a comment, which I think is a great one. And I think, again, one of the things about LinkedIn, and we're talking a lot about LinkedIn because it is sort of the go-to for recruiters, is Angela says also, when someone is very active on LinkedIn and suddenly they go quiet, reach out and make sure they're okay. It's also part of your brand to show that you pay attention and care for others. So there's lots of ways that you can be looking at LinkedIn through opportunities to demonstrate your empathy as a leader, your caring as a leader, like all of those qualities that, you want to be able to be showing. I've seen some people on LinkedIn post things like, hey, if you've been let go during this pandemic, I'm here to help you reach out and network. But what you're also doing in that moment is you're demonstrating your leadership or your empathy or your compassion, and people notice those things, right, in the feeds.
That's a great question, Angela. But I mean, your question, I'm not too sure about, everybody's putting on this, well, if you're in career transition, I can help you. But a lot of people are going to say, well, help me, but I don't even know you, and it's part of my brand. I have to know people before I help them, because it's part of my brand. And so would it be part of your brand? You would only help people you wouldn't help people you don't really know. You may come in through a second lead or whatever, but you have to get to know them. You have to, So I think that is now becoming over, and I hate to be negative, but I think that's becoming overused now. But we are collaboration. That's why you should build your network, because there's going to be, the more people you have in your network, the more people can help you. And everybody in your network has got leads. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Don't be frightened to ask those people. Tell them you're in career transition and this is what you're looking for. But be very, very specific initially. And if that doesn't work, then you widen that bullseye, and then you widen it and widen it. But even name companies that you want to go and work for. We all have companies that we want to go and work for. So when a client engages me for job search coaching, I get them to send me 35 companies they want to go and work for, and they have to send 2 paragraphs on each company why they want to go and work for that particular company.
Yeah, I really love that, because I have to say, I do talk to a lot of people that are in career transition, and, and I always want to know how I can help them. And I get this sort of, well, if you hear of this kind of role, and my thing about that is, then what you're doing is you're making it my responsibility to look for a job for you.
Yeah.
Right. And I have my own job to do. Like, I want to help and I want to be helpful. But I think this idea of people getting comfortable getting specific, Because what I notice is that people aren't very comfortable being specific because they don't want to close off any opportunities.
Oh, right.
So they keep themselves very broad as opposed to doing what, and it's interesting that you suggest that to people, because I'll often say to people, go through my LinkedIn through LinkedIn network. If you see anybody at a company that you want to work with, and if I can make an introduction to you, because I know you and I'm happy to make that intro, or I feel I can be useful in that, I'm happy to do it. But do a little bit of the legwork yourself.
Yeah.
See where it is that you want to go, right?
Yeah, I do exactly the same. I'm more than happy to help my network once I get to know them. So if say, for instance, you asked me to connect you with somebody at the RBC or IBM or whatever, I'd ask you, give me 3 reasons why I should connect you. Because then that enhances the brand of me and you and to the introduction to them. But you're talking about, I just triggered something here. People who send 200 resumes out get less, because they just have to, they feel like they have to, get less traction than people send 10 resumes out, 10 targeted resumes.
Yeah.
Sales and marketing people, they target, they look, they do a lot of research on their prospects. So you now need to have your prospects. Who are your prospects? Who do you want to go and work for? And, even in today's economy, here in Canada and elsewhere, I know there are people looking for jobs right now.
Yeah, great. And I want to read a couple of comments, because there's Cheryl's made, and Cheryl is a branding, I would say, woman extraordinaire. So Cheryl's made the point that I would position frequent engagement in the opposite way. Not that I'm shopping for a job. So this is towards the other person's question. Not that I'm shopping for a job, but I'm raising my personal profile on behalf of the company. We all represent the corporate brand. So your leaders should expect this from you, in my opinion. So that's just another take that really, if you are working, there's an opportunity for you there to represent the corporate brand and to, leverage that, which I see a lot of the folks doing that are certainly in my network.
So I see that. That's a great comment, but I'm going to reverse it, because I look at it from a stakeholder. So my clients who are products, salespeople, they're going to go to market sometime or other. Yes, you want to promote your company. You want to be. There's no such thing as loyalty anymore. I remember when I first started running resumes 26 years ago, I used to put that word loyal in. Well, actually, there's no loyalty anymore, because tomorrow morning, that company could ditch you. You're just a number. So I don't believe in really personally promoting my clients, promoting their companies. I've had clients, I've got an amazing, 3 months ago, I had an amazing appraisal. And my boss loves me. He thinks there's everything coming out of me. I've done this and I've done that. Then he is told to cut. And who cuts? That person who just got that really good appraisal. So you need to manage your career. It's the perception. You are a product. You have to manage your career day in, day out, 365. When you're gainfully employed, because I see those people who manage their careers when they are gainfully employed get back to work a lot faster, because they can pick it up straight away. They have the resume, they have the LinkedIn profile, they have the network.
Yeah, it's good. Wow, this is great. I've got a couple of other questions that are coming in that I think are segueing onto this, actually. So another question that's come in is, do you have any tips or suggestions on how to focus on the right opportunities when you have a wide range of interests and skills that can apply to a wide range of roles and industries? I get asked that a lot too, or people, I think another tie into this maybe that some people are thinking about is pivoting jobs. Like say you've got a lot of experience in one industry and you want to pivot over to another industry or try something different, but you're not sure how to, demonstrate your skills in a clear way. What's your advice?
That's great. That's a great question. So today they are hiring more generalists, because you can fill maybe 3 spaces and that's going to save them a lot of money. But in good times, they're hiring niche. They want experts within that particular niche. So I'm seeing a lot more generalists. If you can broaden your horizon a little bit more, and that's where you need to have all those buzzwords, all those keywords, 50 at least in your LinkedIn profile, and then you need to have 18 in your resume of your core areas of expertise. But yeah, so people are getting broader and then they are widening their reach because of the talent. Yeah. So hopefully that answers the question very briefly.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. I think I often, like, in terms of structure of resumes, do you have any strong opinions about that? Like, if you're really doing something where it's a bit more of a transition, should you go with more of a skills-based resume versus a position-based resume, or is all of that stuff kind of archaic and, you know, there's different ways of presenting yourself these days that people should be aware of?
So just coming back to the previous question, I just thought here, you can't transition in a recession from this skill set to this skill set. In the good times you can, but coming to the resumes, I'm really passionate about resumes. There's only one format, and it's a combination. So there's three types of resumes. There's the reverse chronological, which is sort of self-explanatory, and then there was when I first started writing resumes 26 years ago, there was the functional, which is a skills-based resume, and then today the combination, which is a combination of both. Plus, this is very, very crucial. So many people are ignorant about, well, ATS, applicant tracking system. Your resume generally is not going to be read by a human being. Doesn't matter where you are, the top or the bottom or anywhere in between. Sadly, you're going to be screened just through this scanning machinery, and it's very, very particular. It's a computer, and you can never beat a computer. One character, one line wrong, or whatever, and you can be the perfect candidate applying for that particular job, but you're going to miss out just simply because your format was wrong. Mm-hmm. It's sad that the computer should, and I've seen that many, many times. You know, people have they haven't got the right format, and through a free resume critique, or through a rewrite, and then they're just getting interviews, and it was the resume.
This makes me think of, you know what this makes me think of, just my own career path. Like, I think I only ever applied for one job in a paper that I had no connections to, that I landed, and it was literally because that job posting was written for me. It was right. Like the perfect. There was nobody could have aligned to that job better than me. But in every other job, I got it through my network. And I guess that circling back on the network and the importance of network, which, you know, is one of your kind of 3 points. How frequently, like, if I'm going to invest my time, am I going to have more odds of getting a job through networking and people knowing me and like word of mouth referral and that type of thing, versus what I would almost consider it like cold calling, applying for jobs and postings and things like that? Where should I spend my time and energy? What are my odds?
So I guess the bulk of your viewers are from Canada. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would guess. Okay,
so Canada is an exception to the rule as far as job searching. I work globally. I've got clients in 30 odd countries right now, but the backbone of my expertise is here in Canada. So Canada is totally different from any other country. So do you know that only 8% of jobs are advertised? So that includes all the job boards, so Monster, Workopolis, Indeed, Aluta, Career Builder, Glassdoor, there's a few others, plus all the printed newspapers, so the national newspapers, the regional newspapers, and the local newspapers, plus all the corporate websites. And then executive recruiters carry about 12 to 13%. And the rest, so we just hit 20%. Guess where the rest is? Networking. So there's a huge, like a massive hidden job market as we speak, waiting for you to tap into. So you have to go back to my old trade as a detective, a police detective. You have to go and hunt out those jobs. So yeah, people think, I get senior executives, very learned people, very successful in their career, and I say to them, just during when we're having an initial conversation, well, what do you think of jobs that are advertised? And they say 80%. I said, you better be sitting down because I'm going to give you some bad news. And 8%, yeah. So it's networking. You are network. I'm a networker. You need to embrace networking.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's the piece that a lot of people struggle with, is how do I build my network? How do I maintain my network? How do I, strategically grow my network?
Oh yeah. Yeah, so you need to network while you're gainfully employed as well. Don't just, as I said a few minutes ago, don't just drop off the radar. And then when you come back into career transition, you think you can pick up that network. Plus, you need to network with executive recruiters. You need to build a relationship with executive recruiters. I don't know whether you've had any executive recruiters on your webcast, but you need to be on their radar, and it's relationship management. The whole world revolves around relationship management, and you need to build those relationships. And when you land, you need to retain those relationships. So don't just drop off their radar and then 5 years, 6 years, 7 years later think that you can pick up that relationship. That's not where it is. You need to, every 6 months or so, that's the sort of feedback I get from executive recruiters. I mean, I know most of them, is send them an email and say, I'm having a great time at ABC company and I've made them gazillion dollars in the last 6 months or whatever. And then just leave it at that. You're on their radar, and then when they got talent, they got a project, they'll remember you. But never, ever lose relationships with executive recruiters. That's crucial.
Yeah. Even just like, popping them with a bit of an update on where you're at or what you've done recently. And okay, so another question that's come in, I think this is an interesting one. What are your thoughts about posting or liking or sharing political or social statements? Commenter says, personally seeing what is happening in the world today with the injustices, inequality, racism, etc., is LinkedIn a place for that or not? How do prospective employers view that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I'm a great believer, zero politics, zero religion. Because unfortunately, we're in a discretion, people can, they may be conservative and you're a liberal and you've said something about Trudeau or whatever, or vice versa, and then something about your religion. Keep it, and there's too much political, what I call political trash and religious trash going on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a business platform. You can share it on other platforms, but keep steer, because people can still discriminate against you.
So I'm going to challenge you on that, because I think about it in a different way. So I'm
sure. Yeah, please. I like to be challenged.
Because I think about, like, if you're going to get really serious about working somewhere where you're a good fit and you want to, find that ideal job and they're going to accept you for who you are, and you want to know that they can deal with your beliefs and all of that kind of stuff, wouldn't it be beneficial to put that out there? Yes, I mean, maybe the risk is you're maybe alienating 50% or more of the audience. Yeah. But what if you do take that stand?
That's your personal position. I mean, if you really want to get the maximum exposure, like the idea of a job search is to get the maximum number of interviews. So you're right. I would say you're probably restricting yourself by 80%. I think you're being very conservative there. But, if you, there's nothing against religion or nothing against politics, or anything else, but you have to be careful on how you express that. That's really what you need to do. Yeah.
And maybe the idea is get your foot in the door first, and then you can explore. Once you know that they really want you, then you can start to see, does it really align with my value system and where I want.
Right. Well, that leads me on to something else. Corporate culture is very, very important. You need to find out. So when I get my clients during coaching, job search coaching or whatever, to get me the list of the top 35, I need to see, they need to go and find out the corporate culture of that company. So what you need to do is, if you want to go and work for an ABC company, you need to go and connect with people who may be in a totally different department, but lateral to you, or maybe lower or even higher, it doesn't really matter. But build a relationship with them and ask for a phone call to understand their corporate culture. Because the more you understand about corporate culture, it might not be a fit for you. And therefore, you're already eliminating that potential employer. So culture is very, very important.
I personally think culture is if there was one linchpin, one nail in the coffin for people that make a career leap and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, what I've seen is it's a cultural fit, and especially when you're mid-career, like many of our folks are. And, you know, if you don't really understand what's important to you and your core values and how you want to be aligned to the work you're doing, oof. I would, you know, they say culture eats strategy for lunch. I always say culture will eat a leader for lunch too.
No, I'm totally with you. And so another way to look at it is if you go through LinkedIn and type in ABC company, you can see all the people who've got ABC company on LinkedIn. And then you need to find somebody who's recently left, because they can give you all the dirt. Yeah. They have no allegiance to that particular company, and they can open up. And some of my clients have found some amazing stuff. Yeah. You know, and if you're a sales guy, you can find out all sorts of different things about their sales technique. They may be missing out on this niche or that niche, and then you can put a business case to them.
Yeah, we had a client recently, or like one of our members did that recently with a job where she actually put together a proposal for a position after talking to a few people within the company. And she was brought in on a contract to start, but because of how she was able to sort of connect some dots and suggest her own position where she could help.
Yeah, it's a business case. So you're putting forward to, well, why should you employ me? Yeah, and is it a fit? Yeah, so it's the same as an interview. An interview is just a meeting of the minds to see if you're a fit.
What's the question? Like if people are wanting to figure out corporate culture and they're asking, like, do you have a go-to question that you get your clients to ask? To find out
that can spin off into other things, but I would say, may I take 20 minutes of your 15 minutes of your time? I'm applying for a job, or I'm thinking about joining ABC company. I would like to know, just be open. I would like to know more about your culture. What do you talk about? Well, I guess it's a thing of the past right now, but the water cooler. What do you talk about around the water cooler? But or I need to know your culture. And invariably, people will give you 10 or 20 minutes of their time. If they don't, this is my philosophy, then hopefully they're going to be in career transition, you know, 6 months or 6 years or a year down the road, and they might want you. So, yeah.
So, okay, so I got a hot topic question for you. So Karen made a comment in the chat about the biases towards women over the age of 40, barriers to women, you know, in terms of getting jobs. I mean, we know of biases against, if like my name Glain, I will tell you, I have known in my career, people are afraid to call me because they don't know how to pronounce my name. And so it's darn Welsh, and they're, you know, need to have these crazy names that are weird to pronounce. But I mean, and there's been plenty of research showing that if you've got a name that sounds too ethnic or too, you know, you name it, like, or you're female or whatever, or you're, you know, so I guess I'm curious, how do you help clients overcome those kinds of systemic biases that, let's face it, they exist, or else we would see more parity at certainly senior executive levels around diversity and women and all of those kinds of things. So thoughts on that? What are some tips?
So if your name is, you know, you come from Southeast Asia or whatever, and you've got your name is, your first name is like 20 letters long, you need to précis it. So you can go, you know, Raj or something like that. You need to précis it, but make sure all your marketing, your resume, your LinkedIn, your any other platform is exactly the same. Because if I get your resume and it's got the long name, and then I look for the long name on LinkedIn, I don't find you. So make sure you synergize it all. Coming to women, well, I think, you know, I'm really passionate about promoting women in the workplace. I work a lot with Jay Rosenweg from Rosenweg. He's an executive recruiter who's really passionate about promoting. And I've lost clients through being overt on social media about women in the workplace, and definitely women on boards and at the C-level. But yeah, you can get there. Sadly, it's a very long haul, but you can get there. You just have to get, again, coming back to the right business case. Why should they choose you over a male? But yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There is discrimination, male, female. I think that is subsiding. I don't know what this COVID situation is going to bring, when we come out of it the other end. But I am really passionate about women. I believe they have the same attributes, the same skill sets that can get to the C-level or board director.
Well, you know, like I would tell you, a research study shows that women actually outperform men on 17 out of 19 leadership attributes that correlate with success. So
I did not know that. I'd love to see that. You should send me that. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, the HBR article from 2019, Kouzes and
oh, okay.
Not Kouzes and Posner, Kouzes and another one, but yeah, we can even send that link out to the people on the call. But
yeah,
I think that there is also, you know, but that gets into the systemic bias that we have and how do we position ourselves. So interesting. So your advice would be like, change up your name to fit in the westernized culture.
Yes. Yeah. You need to. Yeah, you need to. So, and then of course, I relocate people across the world. Lots of people coming to Canada. I've helped lots of people immigrate here to Canada because I'm an immigrant myself. But, you know, if you're going to Australia, then you see if you can get an Australian address, an Australian telephone number or whatever. Well, yeah. And, you know, you can move internationally, but not as much in this climate as you could prior to COVID.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that yeah, there's not a lot of movement going on on the global scale right now for sure. In terms of Mohammed has a great question. Thanks, Mo, for this question. In your experience, how important are certifications versus experience? Say you've like a hard one, you know, lifelong experience, but you don't have the MBA from Harvard or, you know, something else. How does that play in? And what really matters these days?
Right. So when a hiring authority, whether they be a recruiter or whether they be an HR professional or anybody else, they look for red flags. One of the red flags is your most recent education. Now, you don't have to have degrees galore. You don't have to have certifications galore. With the advent of online availability, you can take, you're here in Canada, you can take something at the London Business School, get that, you know, top universities on your, just a 2-week course or 3-week course or whatever, get that. But if you haven't got anything in the last 10 years or even 7 years, that we need to update our skills, and that's a red flag if you haven't got any certification, online course, degree, diploma, whatever.
Yeah. Continuous learning is such a thing. Now you work with a lot of the global MBA, EMBA schools.
Yes.
What are you seeing in terms of what's being coveted for skill sets? Like what if people were going to lean in and do some upgrading of their skills, knowledge, approaches? What's being coveted right now?
Well, I can tell you right now that EMBA is the place where I'm an expert, the sector I'm an expert is like hot. It's a differentiated because you learn a lot and influencers in your career know how tough the degree is because you have to be at work and then you have to do maybe 20 or 30 hours on top of your work per week. And then you have to, it depends what program you choose. Sometimes you travel the world in between as well to the various modules. So yeah, an EMBA is very, very hot. An MBA is, you know, better than, you know, what is interesting, the universities are now defining the masters. So there's not just an MBA and an EMBA. There's an MPhil. There's masters in management. There's an M analytics run out of Queens. There are some really, go and find something again that would differentiate you. There's so many courses out there, and you don't even have to leave your home to do them now. I mean, masters you do, but the online certificates and whatever, you don't have to. If you're if you're in IT, you definitely need to update because as we've been speaking for the last 40 minutes, IT's changed totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in terms of leadership attributes or things that when you're writing a resume for somebody or what you're seeing, or like you said, you know, it's a recession. I got people who are getting multiple offers right now, I mean, I hear with our clients things like they're looking for leaders who have agility. So you talked earlier about this generalist view, like to be able to be a bit more of a generalist because you can get 3 jobs in one, which sounds exhausting to me, but anyway. What are there other sort of, qualities that you notice companies are wanting more and more from their job applicants, no matter what functional area you're in, but just like,
Yeah. So they're looking for how you communicate and how you can collaborate across the business, because it's not just siloed right now. They're all in it together. Talent. Some companies are very thin right now because they've laid off so many people. So you have to work across here. You have to work across there. So yeah, collaboration. Your communication skills are good, and then if you are multilingual, you need to put that on your resume as well, because that's definitely in the province of Ontario. If you're bilingual, you need to put that. So many people, oh, well, I'm French, I speak French, but I don't see the benefit of it. Well, actually, you know what? In the province of Ontario, we're a bilingual country. That can bring you a lot of extra money. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You need to show good leadership skills. They don't particularly want hands-on. They want you to talk about, well, hands-off, but how do you build that hands-on, that collaboration, and get them, ignite their excitement and engagement and whatever.
So I think we've got time for one last question, which is how do you know when it's time to move on from an organization before it becomes detrimental to your career? I've had people say that to me. They get this feeling like they've been there for too long, and are they getting too stale? Right. And and I guess the other layering question that's part of this is, and is it a good time to make a move like this during a pandemic? Or are you better off to kind of hunker down, see it through, and use this time to assess where you're going to go next? Thoughts on that?
Well, that's a multifaceted question too. So I would say in a recession right now, I would say put your feet to the ground and work hard and see if you can impress your employer without being laid off. If you are laid off, then you've got no option. But yeah, so I mean, my father's generation, I always talk about this. My father was in his company from the day he graduated in university or the day he retired. And that was perfectly acceptable in those days, but that's no longer acceptable. The rule of thumb is you should move around every 4 to 5 years if you aren't forced to move around.
You should move around every 4 to 5 years if you aren't forced to move around. Now, when you say move around, does it count if I'm getting different roles within my same company?
Preferably different companies.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what people are looking for today, whereas it's totally reversed from my father's generation.
As a Gen X, I find that shocking, because Gen X, we were being clobbered for not having that loyalty and, all of that stuff, right?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier on, there is no loyalty. You manage your career, and I would suggest, as a career coach with thousands and thousands of clients under my belt, I would say, yeah, you need to move around. If you've been there 10 years, that's a question mark when somebody's sourcing talent on LinkedIn. That is another kind of red flag.
Because why?
It shows that you don't want to take that risk. You don't want to look for new opportunities. You may have learned new things, but that might be not clear in your LinkedIn profile. When you exit a company of your own volition, you take a lot of risk, and you're willing to seize new opportunities.
Which sort of fits, I guess, with some of the things people are looking for today. They want to see that you're agile, you can move, you've got flexibility, you've got broad base of experience or knowledge or insights or whatever it might be. And
oh yeah, it's not just the hard skills that they're looking for. It's your personal skills as well, combined with your personal brand.
Awesome. Well, Martin, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I'm just going to kind of wrap us up here and talk about next steps. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again and just show you guys a couple of things, and then we'll do a formal goodbye to to everybody. So everyone, thanks so much for sitting in on this conversation. For those of you that are new to the Roundtable, we do 3 things: group coaching, group mentoring, and team coaching, mostly within organizations. So happy to talk to any of you about the work that we can do if you're interested in talking about that. We're doing a lot of team coaching lately as teams are trying to navigate the new normal of working reality of a long-term pandemic, let me tell you. The other thing I want to call out right now is that we are enrolling for our anchor program, the Roundtable for Leaders. This is our one time a year. We do it maybe once or twice a year, open enrollment. If you are a VP or senior director, this is the cohort for you, where we do a lot of the things actually that we talked about today, help you figure out your values, your brand, all of those kinds of good things. It's launching November 17th. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me a call or an email, and I'm happy to give you more info on it. Don't forget to pick up my book. If you can't make it to the Roundtable for Leaders session, you want to start your own group, the book tells you how to do that. I give everybody the shortcut so you can go for it. And then just to let you know what's coming up next with this programming, I've got my friend Nicola Taggart is joining us. She is the queen of calming chaos, and aren't we all in chaos right now? So if you can join us on October 27th, we're going to have a great conversation on what we all need to do to keep our sanity these days as we hunker down for wave 2. But Martin, thank you again so much for being with us today and for
it's a pleasure.
Answering those questions that were coming in. Everybody on the call, thank you for all the great questions, and we'll be sending out the